to panic or not to panic? That is the question. I've got the answer for 7 high-end draft picks in fantasy baseball that are slumping pretty bad to start the season. First up was a top 50 draft pick. I hate to say I told you so, but Nolan Jones was the cover boy for my bust video preseason. Not a guy I really drafted at all. Which is kind of ironic, really, because last year when he came up, I was all over him, picked him up everywhere I could. I really liked Nolan Jones as a prospect back when he was a third baseman for Cleveland. But this is a clear case where he kind of overachieved last year, and that's not just me in my opinion. This is a fact. His batting average on balls in play, aka BABIP, was historically high, totally unsustainable, and of course it has dropped. But look, he's struggling far worse than we could have expected. This isn't just regression, this is just outright bad performance. Coming off another 0 for 4 performance, his batting average is now down to 156. Look, didn't see that coming. And he's not even close to making up for it with power, speed, or counting stats. Only 1 home run so far for the slugger and only 2 steals. And if you're hoping for any signs of possible positive regression, maybe something underneath the hood that shows that, well, maybe it's just bad luck this year. No. He's posted a 183 expected batting average and a strikeout rate at 39.5%. And just in case you're not sure how bad that is, Major League average is 22% for strikeout rate for hitters. And the worst thing for a hitter like this and all the guys I'm about to talk about today is that you can't really do much with them because you don't want to drop them in case they turn it around, and you can't really trade them because you'll get nothing back, but you don't want to play him either. So what do you do? In this case, I do think you need to hold tight at some point. He'll turn it around to some extent, but how worried should you be here? I'm going to put the panic meter at about a 9 out of 10 because, like I said before, he's being way overdrafted. I knew that there was going to be some decline in terms of batting average. I didn't think it would be this much, but hey, I'm not all that surprised that he's been a bust so far. Another trendy draft pick, someone whose ADP kept creeping up as we got closer to the season, is O'Neal Cruz of the Pittsburgh Pirates. Now, Cruz could only be better than last year because he barely played last year due to injury, but we know this is a guy who's, 6'7", and has massive power and speed, and he plays shortstop. And early on, things were actually looking pretty good. The Pirates got off to a hot start as a team, and Cruz himself got moved up to the leadoff spot. That has quickly changed because now he's down hitting 8th in that order off another 0 for 2 performance, and he's hitting 209. Now in this case, at least he's done a little something, just stole his second base, and he does have 3 home runs. Like, power will not be an issue, it will come. The batting average was never really going to be his calling card. We knew that, you're going to have to sacrifice a little bit there, maybe get an average like 250s, 260s in order to get that power speed combo. I think the average will come around. This is a guy who's going to be streaky because he also has some swing and miss to his game. I think moreover, what we're seeing is it's the Pirates as an offense have been very up and down. Up the very first week of the season, looked great, and of course now down to reality again. For Cruz overall, I'll set the panic level at about a 5. Look, I'm not going to say I'm not nervous at all because it's not like he has this big track record to fall back on. We know he's going to be a streaky player, but I do think at the end, you probably won't be too disappointed with what he does. Although I will say I think he was also a little bit overdrafted. Now with Byron Buxton and everything twin, the question isn't should you panic, it's just is there any reason not to just be completely out? At one time, Byron Buxton looked like the most promising young hitter in the game. I mean, of all the injury-shortened seasons he's had, there was that one where it looked like he might be on his way to an MVP. Well, this is a stark reminder of just how far removed we are from that, and just the fact that he even was on the roster at opening day was like a major hurdle for him. The fact that he's actually been playing pretty much every day is an accomplishment. And now that we finally get, I guess, a healthy Byron Buxton, this is our reward: a 217 batting average, 0 home runs, 0 stolen bases. That's right, Byron Buxton has exactly as many homers and steals this year as Bartolo Colon. And it's no surprise you look at a 37% K minus BB, that's strikeout minus walk rate. He's doing exactly what you don't want, striking out a ton and not walking at all. Now, he's just one of the reasons why the Twins have a historically bad offense so far to start the season. I mean, everything going wrong for them started on opening day when Royce Lewis hit the IL long term. Buxton has still been out there, but he's hurting this team as if they need any more hurt. While this really could be a 10 or maybe a 12 out of 10, I'm going to put the panic meter at an 8 for Buxton because there is still time. He could turn around. This is somebody who also could catch fire. I'm not sure what is holding him back from making contact with the ball, but at least we know the tools are somewhere still in there. But man, it can't be long before you just cut bait. You thought you were getting a steal on draft day, potentially with Buxton. Well, you might have got at least a hefty discount on George Springer, who's also coming off a season which was solid but not spectacular. So far, George Springer, not too solid, only hitting .210. He's still in the leadoff spot every day, but counting stats have been underwhelming because we've got some underachievement from that whole Blue Jays lineup. He's also managed to chip in 2 homers, 3 steals, but doesn't really feel like much of a reward. But unlike some of the players I've already mentioned, I'm going to say the panic level's pretty low here, only about a 3 out of 10, because Springer does have some metrics that look like he should turn things around. His expected batting average is .273, and just like George Springer typically does, walking more than striking out. The plate discipline, definitely not an issue. You know, with Springer, kind of like with Buxton, lately the issue has been more about health and, is he going to stay out there? And he had his healthiest season in a while in 2023. So far, so good. Again, feel like the batting average will come around. He is going to help you with counting stats. He's not going to be moved off that leadoff spot. And you got to think guys like Vlad and the rest of that Blue Jay lineup, they're going to pick it up at some point. I'm not quite ready to put Springer as a buy low, but I think another week of just mediocrity might get there. Now here's an interesting one. What about a guy who already has 10 stolen bases but still feels like a big bust? Lane Thomas for the Washington Nationals is down to 179 in terms of batting average. And yeah, the speed helps, but that really is just offsetting the lack of everything else. Because remember, last year, not only did he steal bases, he had 28 home runs, kind of out of nowhere. You're expecting more than just 2 so far. I think the fantasy community overall did a good job of not overvaluing him too much. Kind of a late age breakout, if you will, a guy who benefited from playing time, being in that Nationals lineup. And sure, he had some impressive numbers for fantasy, was very, very helpful to teams that just picked him up off waivers last year, but didn't want to overdraft him. But still, at this point, we have to wonder exactly how legit was that power, and can he pick it up this year? Obviously, he hasn't. He hadn't done much with the bat. The steals, at least, are keeping him on rosters and possibly in lineups for the time being. So I think at this point, you got to stick with him. Not really much you can do otherwise. I will say that personally, I don't have any Lane Thomas in any of my leagues, and I'm at least double digits in fantasy leagues. But, the panic meter is probably about a 6 here. I don't think you should be too worried because at the very least, he's running. A lot of people ready to sound the alarm on Evan Carter, young outfielder for the Rangers. His Sunday night performance definitely will help. Got 2 hits, including his 3rd home run, and scored twice. Now, that alone doesn't cover up the fact that he's been having a rough start to the season, and those concerns about him maybe not being able to hit lefties, well, so far, 0 for 10 against left-handed pitchers. That seems to be pretty well founded, and it's not like he's doing much better against righties, 228. So is his latest game maybe a sign he's going to snap out of it, put together a hot streak, or is it just a good game against mediocre pitching? Well, if you know how I feel about Evan Carter, I'm not too worried. Putting him about a 5 on the panic meter. This guy's too talented not to continue to hit. Yeah, I wish he could hit lefties better, but he's still in there pretty much every day, and he's got that power upside. He's got the hit tool. He'll put it together. Don't cut him. Don't sell low on him. Keep the faith. And also good timing for Xander Bogaerts to kind of reassure his fantasy owners everything will be okay. Look, already I wasn't worried at all about this guy. I put him about a 2 on the panic meter. And then on Sunday, also went deep, 2 hits. He got his 2nd home run of the season. Only hitting .204 right now, even with that. But still, this is a guy who's a career .289 hitter. I mean, the model of consistency is Xander Bogaerts. Always will hit for average, will get you a solid about 20-ish home runs. He will definitely drive in runs, and he's still at the top of that Padres lineup. Now, don't get me wrong, there was legit reason for panic with Bogaerts in terms of rolling windows. Now that we're deep enough into the season, talk about 100 plate appearance, batting average. His rolling window was the absolute lowest, his last 100 plate appearances compared to the previous one, which goes back to last season. I mean, what does all this mean? Just He's off to a really rough start. He will figure it out. He will be fine. He's already showing those signs of breaking out. So if for some reason he was rage dropped, you pick him up. If someone's still willing to sell low on him, you buy low. It's hard not to be reactive to a game, to a week, to a small sample size, but you always have to keep in mind with baseball, it is a long season. And we're going to be here for you all season long, giving you advice to help you win your fantasy baseball league. If you haven't subscribed, do it now. Check out the latest video to help you win.